Takeoff be like, ain't nobody come to see you Offset. Y'all about to start introducing me as Takeoff, and the rest of y'all are the Migos. What up YouTube, Topaz Yates back for another review, and this one is to The Migos, Culture 3. And before we jump into the review of this album, first I gotta give you context. First, I gotta let you know how I was feeling leading up to this project so you can know how I feel about this project. But if you feel as though you already know everything there is to know about The Migos, then feel free to fast forward to this point here. But who are The Migos? The Migos are a group that's from Georgia, not specifically Atlanta, but they have been to the forefront of the Atlanta trap music scene. Dating back to singles like Versace that came out in 2013, Dab that came out in 2015, Bad and Bougie that came out in 2016. These guys have molded the way that music is made, just based off of the catchiness of what they drop and how hot it's become over the years. The Migos are composed of 3 members, all starting with Quavo. Quavo went and got his nephew Takeoff and his cousin Offset to compose this group, and because they have had chemistry and the fact that they were raised in the same home and raised together, and they probably were making songs together for a very long time, because of all of this, the chemistry is unparalleled in this industry where you hardly ever see this. Sadly, as of recently, people have been more focused in on the relationship dating lives, like with Cardi B and Saweetie, more than the actual music, and that being because they haven't really been dropping anything amazing as of recent. And keep in mind, I've never been a huge fan, but yet you have to show respect when you know all of their songs. You did? Like Slippery, Walk It Like I Talk It, or Fight Night, or Motorsport. Like, you can go down the list of songs that people who are not fans of these individuals that they know. See, they are the masters of the commercialized trap songs that can reach mass appeal just by the catchiness of them. And then when you listen to the full albums, there'll be some songs that not even intended to be singles, but yet they are good quality tracks. My issue with them is they just do not have the ability to compose full bodies of work. They have songs that have changed the game, but their albums as a whole have just been decent. And sadly, I do believe that the window to actually improve to the point where they can create full bodies of music and be respected upon the entire culture is really gone. Like, the window has shut on that. They have really reached that point where you're hoping for just 2 or 3 super dope songs, and the rest of it you can skip past, it doesn't really matter. And that was really my expectation coming into this album, Culture 3. Where I will say that it feels more like they're getting a whole bunch of features in order to carry the project instead of relying on the creativity like they used to do before in the past. Instead, they just need big names on certain kinds of beats from certain producers, and they think they can craft the next classic hits and such, but they're not really focusing back in on the basics. And you see this with songs that people were talking about, that Having Our Way that is featuring Drake, where these guys really needed to do more in order to compete. You cannot create a track where you're just spitting and let Drake just go ahead and out-rap y'all. I mean, there's just one bar that Drake spit that there's nothing that the Migos could have did anything with, when he said, I done pulled up on so many dudes, man, it's like I'm getting into shape. Then it didn't help that the production here was not the best of this entire project. This song was cool. This is the one that people's gonna talk about because of the names that's involved, but yet it's not that good of a song, and it's indicative of the entire project. Same goes for that type-ish with Cardi B up on there, where this is more of the star power, but yet you're not really getting the quality track here, as the concept is just this type of energy that this track is bringing to you does blank, and you fill in the blank. And it doesn't help when you got Cardi trying to spit in there and she's saying things like, you know, all of y'all are puppets while I'm in the lamb chop, but I don't play along. Like, I understand what you're trying to say, and points for trying to put in Barney and lamb chop and the play along and all of that stuff and put it into bars, but this wasn't it, baby. Let's also look at that Picasso with Future on there, man, as this one was rather interesting too. Like, I kind of like the production, but the approach that they took is the same exact approach that Future does to everything, and that the Migos typically do as well. You dig? Like, it all feels the same because they're going about this song the same way they do about most of their songs, therefore making it uninteresting even though the potential was there with the production. Antisocial with Juice WRLD was actually kind of interesting as well. Not one of my favorites, but I see what they are talking about and I want to touch on that, where they are explaining that they take drugs to ease the pain of life. And I can understand that because life is hard. Every day you gotta get up, you gotta get out, you got to get out there and get it. But the problem with this is when you take drugs, you're pretty much running away from your problems, and your problems ain't gonna go nowhere. Eventually you're gonna have to turn to them and face them and fight them. That's why I really can't get behind the message here for a second. And I really just made the first half of this album really lackluster. Things begin to heat up with the song Time For Me, where this is the same typical song that I've been telling you guys that we hear on every album, where people begin to look back at when they absolutely had nothing. And I dislike the fact that we hear these same caliber songs over and over and over, but there's a reason why we hear them. It's because they work and people relate to them and people use it as motivation to actually get better. And when quality artists like the Migos get their hands and do something like this, it tends to come out pretty well. And this one in particular was one of the best songs off this project. Light It Up was rather interesting. Now, I'm not saying that it was a good song, but I'm not saying that it was a bad song. I'm saying that it was a good concept, and what they tried to do here was combine the Atlanta trap with the New York variation of what grime is out in the UK, because they had Pop Smoke on it, and that's what Pop Smoke did. And when you listen to the track, like, yo, it could work. It's just not this one. If they had more time and effort to practice and do something more, like maybe even make a collaborative project, if Pop Smoke didn't end up dying, I think it could have been something like we seen with Lil Durk and Lil Baby. But I also did really like that Needed with NBA Youngboy, how they concluded this album, where that's just them going from Atlanta and combining it with New Orleans, and that has always worked. And yes, I know it is the Migos, but yet you know a review is never complete unless we start going into these bars. See, the Migos are a lot like Coronas. Like, you gotta have a different mentality. You're not drinking Coronas in order to get really drunk. You're drinking Coronas to enjoy your time. You will have more leeway to drink more. And then you can get different variations of it. Like, you got Quavo, who's like just a straight up Corona. Then you got Takeoff, who's like a Corona mixed with grenadine. Or you got Offset, who's like a Corona with lime and salt. But it's that lack of potency that's really making them not so much for me. Like, I like lyricism more than the average individual. But yet I can respect the music that these guys are kicking out. But let's go ahead and look at some of the bars that they dropped on this. None of them are really all that great. Think I'm from Houston, how Gucci came with the rocket. Well, you know, rocket can be synonymous with guns, but yet it's also talking about the Houston Rockets, the basketball team. How they said that I'm taking more drugs than Medellin, as Medellin is the drug capital of the world, pretty much, as talking about how they are trafficking and using drugs of that matter. And the last one I want to talk about is that lift up my wrist and put the sun to the sky, as that's usually the typical bars in which the Migos do, the simplistic ones that's about jewelry and money and try to make something entertaining with it, but it comes off corny if it doesn't have the right beat and the right flow to go along with it. Overall, if you came to a Migos album searching for potent lyricism, then you came to the wrong place, and you should have known better from the jump. You should be here more for the quality music, the production, the overall vibes that they put through, and the catchiness of the songs that they put out there. Overall, there was like 3 songs out of the 19 tracks that I'm actually going to keep, as I expected, as I told you coming into this project. The Migos no longer hold the potential to create a project that's going to be 10 songs of just straight bangers that's super dope. Right now, they can give us 3 to 4 songs a project, which is cool. Eventually in the future, they'll only be able to give us 1 song, but I'll take take it. Overall, I'm gonna give this project a 6 out of 10. It has some interesting ideas on where they could have taken music. Mostly, they just fell back into the same process of what they've consistently done over the years making their music, and it's not hitting like it used to because they've been in the game for so long. It's time to evolve and switch things up. Stop relying on the star power. Get back to the basics. Get back to the grassroots and begin building up songs that will ultimately kill your brand into the future.